Hello friends, welcome to the Java session. I'm Pavitra. Today we're going to discuss about what is a constructor in Java. And whenever we want to understand the constructor in Java, and it can be any topic. To understand the topic, we always need to understand why we need that concept, what is this, and how to use this. So today first we'll understand what is the constructor. Constructor is a special method in Java. Okay, we all know already the methods. What you mean by method? It does certain functionality or it is a set of instructions. Okay, you want to do any business logic, we will write the methods. The same way, constructor is also a special method. The first point always we have to say whenever say what is constructor. Constructor is a special method. And why do you call it as a special method? Because it is having same name as a class name. And third point, we also say it is a special method because it does not have return type. It does not have a return type. The way the methods have the return type, the constructor does not have the return type. Now, why do you use this constructor? It is used to initialize the object, or first we can say it is used to create an object and initialize the object. Okay, so in this we have means depending on the situation. Okay, we have a different types of constructors. There are total 3 types of constructors. So we will understand one by one. The first, there is a default constructor. And second one is no argument constructor. And third one is parameterized constructor. So we will understand in this video, we will understand the default constructor first. Okay. So for this, we will see one example. Okay, first, how do you write the class? How do you create an object? And how does this default constructor plays an important role there? Okay, so where we are writing this default constructor, we will understand that. So let us do one example for this. We'll create one program and I'll create one new class here. I'm creating the new class by name student, and you can say I'm giving the package name, let us say constructor package. And I will not take a mean now, so just finish. And public class student. Okay, and this is the package. This code will generate automatically for us. And now inside, we know the class contains the properties and methods. Okay, so the first we are going to define the attributes or properties. Okay, so what are those? So I will give here private int student ID. I'll just say, or you can say it is a roll number. Follow the naming conventions. Okay, so the variables naming convention is the lower camel case, so roll number. And next, private string name, that is student name, and private float marks. We can take a lot of, there are a lot of properties are there. Okay, so we can take many things, but here let us to make this more, let us keep this example as a simple, so that I'm taking only three properties, but we can take it as a mobile number, we can take address, we can take semester, we can take the age of the student. Like that, there are a lot of properties we can take it, but right now, to keep the example very simple, so I'm keeping only three properties. Now, the next we know we have to write the methods. Okay. So, when we are writing a method, we know usually what kind of method we write it. I want to display this information. So, I will just write public void display details. Okay. And here we will going to display the student details. So I'm going to say roll number. I will concatenate some space between the properties, so that, okay, the details will be displayed properly. So public wide display details, and I'm giving this. Now let us write the main for this. Here I have taken right now only properties, and I have taken one method. This is the method, and it is for displaying purpose. Method for displaying details, student details. And now we will write one main, and we will test this, whatever the properties and method I have taken, is it working or not. So I'll say test student. Let me take the main now. And we know, like, this is the class, and class is the blueprint of an object, right? Okay, so it is a class. It is class means it is it is a blueprint of an object, or you can say the class defines the structure of an object, how the object is there. Now this class does not physically exist. Okay, it is just a logical stuff, and here the means, as long now right now this class does not have the memory. The JVM doesn't allocate the memory for this. But when does the memory will come into the picture? When we create an object. Okay, so now the question is, how do you create an object? So here we are going to create object of an student. So how do we create an object of an student? So here first we have to write a class name. What is that class name? What we have given the student. I want to create an object of this. Okay, the class student. So student, this is the reference variable, is equal to new student. And now the object is getting created, and this is the student, it's a reference variable, and this is new student is an object. Now you all know what you mean by object. Like this object will allocate a memory for this member variables like roll number, name, marks. Okay, these are all the properties. Okay, I need to allocate a memory for these variables. So how does the memory is getting allocated? So when you create an object of the class, so that is the reason these variables we do call it as instance variables. Okay, we do call it as an instance variable, or we do call it as object variables, because this variables memory will be allocated only when we create an object. As long as we don't create an object, the memory will not be allocated for these variables. So that's the reason. So now we have created an object here, student, and student is equal to new student. Okay, so this is the object, and this is the reference variable is of type student type. This is the variable. Okay, the what is the data type of this? That is student. So student is here user defined data type. So we do say the class, like one definition of the class is it is a blueprint of an object. The another definition for a class is you can say it is user defined data type. We have so many predefined data type, that is int, float, double, long, okay, boolean, like that. But I want to create my own data type. Then how do you create? By creating a class. So now I have created a class student. So this will be user defined data type. So here student is the data type. This is the reference variable, means the variable which stores the address of an object. Right now the student will store the address of an object. So that is new student. Now I will show you this how it works, like through diagrammatically we will see how the memory is allocated for that. So here we usually know there are different types of memory in the JVM, but one memory we always say it is a static memory, and one more is dynamic memory, or we call it as another way heap memory. So in the right now, if you write student equal to new student, this is the reference variable. The reference variable memory is allocated in the stack. So I'm taking here this one, and this is, we can call it as new, sorry, this is student. Student is the reference variable name. And now new student. Okay, so that is under the heap. We know object always allocate for our object, memory always allocates in the heap. So, and this object right now it is allocated a memory for an object, but how much memory allocates for an object, that depends on how many properties are there in the class. Okay, so in this, how many properties are there? There are 3 properties right now. So here int is 4 bytes, and string is depending on the number of characters we are going to store, and float is the 4 bytes, right? So it will going to allocate the 3 parts here, 3 parts of memory. One is for roll number, and second one is name, and third one is marks, right? And this is like the name is new student. So it is the heap memory, and let us assume the address of this is, I'm just assuming some sample address, okay, 1xfcd, something like this. And now that address will be stored in the this reference variable 1xfcd. Now this reference variable will be pointing to this address. Okay, so that's how it works. And now whenever the object is getting created, okay, now this is all about, the creating, defining the class and creating an object. And when we create an object, how do you create an object? New student. And what will happen when you create an object? The memory will be allocated, okay, at the heap, and it has certain address. That address will goes to student. But now the question is how all this will be done. Okay, who is doing this? Or first of all, see what is our constructor definition. The constructor is a special method. It is having same name as this. Okay, but here the last point, all of you observe, it is used to create an object and initialize the values to the object. Here initialize the object. But now I told you guys, constructor is used to create an object. But now I told you in this, the object is already created. But how does the object is created? Okay, so object is created with the help of constructor. But where is the constructor here? The constructor is here. You can all observe line number 8. And right now we are discussing default constructor. Okay, so what do you mean by default constructor? The default constructor is the constructor. It is defined by developers, means Java developers already. Okay, already in the library. Already in the library, you can say, or it is the constructor where we don't need to define. Okay, the JVM is already given us one constructor. Okay, that is, we call it as default constructor. So default constructor, developer doesn't need to write it, means explicitly. Being, see, I'm a developer now, I'm developing an application. I don't need to define this constructor explicitly. So that is the reason we call it as default constructor. Default constructor means the constructor which is already present in our application without defining it, without writing it explicitly. So where it is present and why it is present? Okay, see, whenever we want to create an object, the object should have certain default values, right? So like, this is exactly resembles to our real world scenarios. And usually we say, the student, or I'll take a simple example, that is, let us say, usually whenever, let's take an object of baby. Okay, so whenever the baby borns, okay, it borns with some default um, properties, right? So we don't explicitly give any properties. Okay, so the way the baby is having the properties, certain like color, or you can say it is hands or legs. The same way, here in our programs also, whenever we are creating an object, it has a certain default values automatically. Okay, we don't need to define it explicitly. So that is it's happening with the help of default constructor. And where is the default constructor? In the line number 8, you can see we are writing student followed by open parenthesis and close parenthesis. What is this? This is the method signature, right? How do we write a methods? Usually we write the method like this, right? So name of the method and followed by arguments, and there will be a return type, right? But here I told you the constructor does not have a return type. That's the reason, okay, it is having only method name. So what is the name of the method? The method name is same as the class name. So that is our first, I told you it is having same name as the class name. So what is the class name here? The student. So it is having the name same as the class name, that is student. Student followed by argument list. But right now it is default constructor. So default constructor will not have the argument. So when you write new student, okay, so this is default constructor, and you can see in the class we have not written this constructor anywhere. I have not defined this method anywhere in this class. Okay, so it has been written in implicitly in the library. Okay, so whenever I call this new student, it will automatically goes to the creating the object like this, as I have shown you in this picture. This memory is getting allocated and it is going to give you the default values. Okay, the default constructor specialities, it will initialize the default values to these variables. So, the first property is integer. The default value for integer is 0. And second property is name. The default value for string is null. And third property is marks. Okay, that is float type. The default value for float is 0.0f. If it is double, again it is 0.0. If it is long, it is 0. All integers default values is 0, and boolean default value is false, like that. So depending on the data type, it will initialize the default values to these variables. Who is initializing? That is constructor. So constructor is a special method. It is having same name as the class name, you can see, and it is does not have a return type. Okay, so it is not returning any data, okay, to the caller. It just allocates the memory, and there is a new operator, you can see, okay, here. This new operator will return this address, whatever is allocated, to the reference variable student. Now what I will do, we will test this, okay, whether it is assigned those default values by using the default constructor. Okay, so I will say student dot display details. Now what is there in the student, everyone? In the student there is a address 1xfcd, okay, dot display details. Means what? The display details is the method which we have written in the student, and this inside this, what I'm using roll number, name, and marks. This roll number, okay, is up, like right now which object is calling this display details? Okay, this object, that is student, is reference variable, and then this reference variable, what is stored? This address is stored. Now, when I say 1xfcd dot display details, the control will go to student here, and it goes to display details. And here this roll number is nothing but, okay, 1xfcd dot roll number. Okay, because who is calling this display details? Okay, that address 1xfcd, this reference variable is calling this function, calling this method. So this in that address, what is the roll number is there? Okay, so it's indirectly we write usually like this dot roll number, right? What do you mean by this here? This refers to current object. Which is that current object? That is this, okay, the new student. This is the current object. And how this object is calling here with the help of reference variable. Object cannot directly call, so we are storing that address in the reference variable, and reference variable is calling this method. That means this object is calling this method. Okay, so here this dot roll number, whether we write, whether we don't write, here always there will be this. Okay, so this refers to current object roll number. So what is there in the current object roll number? That is 0. Okay, so then null and 0.0f. So everywhere, whether we write, whether we don't write, there will be this. Okay, so which object is calling this method? That object. Okay, the details will be displayed here. Okay, so we will save this. Let me save this, and we will run this now. Let us see, will it print me those details? So you can see the first, it is printing 0. That is, what is that first value I'm printing? Roll number. So roll number, it is printing 0. And this dot name, that is printing null. And this dot marks is printing 0.0. Okay. So yeah, that doesn't print as I shown. That is only for indicating it is a float value. So like this, you can use the default constructor every time whenever we create an object in our programs. Okay, so there is a default constructor, and that default constructor will creates an object, and it will initialize the default values to the all the properties which we are using it inside the class. And it does not have, we are not writing this explicitly in the class. Okay, so this is all about default constructor. And suppose you want to create one more object. Okay, so how many were the objects we create? Every time it allocates the separate memory. So we cannot use the same reference variable, because variable must be unique always, right? So here already I have created a student variable, so again I cannot create a student variable. Okay, so it's a variable, but I told you why we call it as a reference variable, because it refers to the address. And now see, I'm going to create a new object. Means in the memory, there is a one more new object will be getting created here. Separate memory will be getting allocated, and separate reference variable will be getting created, and it is having the different address. Okay, and that address will be stored in that reference variable. And now when I call this details, again, it will print me the same thing, because we are, calling the default constructor. So here 0, null, and 0.0. Like this, you can work with the default constructor. But if you want to set the different values to this constructor, you know how to set that different values. To do that, we have the setters and getters method. Okay, so how do you use the getters and setters method? We will see that in the different next video. But in this video, I am discussing only about the default constructors. In the next video, I will cover up the no argument constructor and parameterized constructor. So I hope you all understood about this, how to use the default constructor. So one thing, all of you, please remember, in the default constructor, we are not going to define that method in the class. That is already there by default. The Java programming is provided one constructor for us, so we don't need to write that explicitly. But whenever somebody asks you what is a constructor, your definition will be, first thing is, constructor is a special method. And why it is special? Because it is having same name as the class name. And next point is, it does not have a return type. and it is used to create an object and initialize the object. Okay, and you should know how many types of constructors are there. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.